Welcome to Pensar Basketball Live. We'll start out today's live with one very important notification that longtime host Darren Dutchyshen has passed away. Passed away, I believe, yesterday, May 15th. I just found out about it a couple hours ago, and I got to say, um, I came to Canada around 2000, 2001, and I watched a lot of sports in my life. I can't tell you a year in my life in which I haven't watched highlights where Darren Dutchyshen has called those highlights. So it's kind of staggering to have someone pass away like that who's 50, 57. I've met him before. Um, Larger than life human being, larger than life personality. And rest in peace and condolences to his family and to the TSN family, of course. Um, so yes. Um, in basketball news, of course, the Denver Nuggets got smoked, not by 10, not by 20, not by 30, not by 40. At one point, they were losing by 50 points in a game that was a must win. Obviously, win or go home for the Minnesota Timberwolves. We'll take a listen to Mike Malone here, and then we will definitely break down the game. Also, to those of you who maybe don't want to listen to the post game with Mike Malone, it's about 5 minutes. That's just enough time for you to go and watch my most recent Nikola Jokic video, which might be the most poorly timed victory lap video in internet history. So let's get on to it.
Made that 27-2 run in the first quarter. It seemed like you guys were fueling their break a little bit with some of the turnovers, but also just missing shots. How much did you feel like you guys weren't executing your offense sort of to the standard that you need to, and how much is just like, okay, we can make these shots in a game 7, we can kind of handle this? It's just a little bit of a variance.
Well, yeah, to your point, we started off 9-2. They call a timeout. They go on a 29-5 run. And in that stretch, the two things that stood out to me were, one, the turnovers, to your point, which I said pregame is, you can't do that in this building with that crowd. Give them life, give them energy. And so our offense, the lack of value in the ball was problematic. And then the other thing that was really problematic in that first half, 11 offense rebounds for 15 points. I told the guys at halftime, I said, fellas, if I would have told you before the game that they'd be shooting 42 from the field and 30 from the three-point line, would you have taken it? And they all said, yeah. I says, well, the reason we're getting our ass kicked is because they're not taking care of the ball. You're not rebounding. We're playing with no physicality and no toughness. And they hit us first, they hit us second, they hit us third. And so you give them credit. They did what they needed to do to keep this series alive and to bring it back to Denver for a Game 7. So a disappointing loss. Anytime you get down by 50 in a playoff game, that's never an enjoyable experience. But we have to go home and get back to playing the way we did, where we won 3 games in a row. And I have no doubt that we'll be ready to do that come Sunday.
Michael, how'd you feel about your team's offensive process once you guys did get down big in the first half? Felt like there were a lot of threes going up. Were you good with those looks for the most part, or would you like to have been a little bit more aggressive toward the rim?
Yeah, I don't know. I think at halftime we had 21 threes attempted, and we only made like maybe 4 of them. And it's a fine line because obviously, as I predicted they would, they double-teamed Nikola. Obviously, after a 40-point outburst, they double-team him. So when they put 2 on the ball, you're going to generate some open looks from 3. But it's a fine line, Vinny, of, okay, yeah, we're generating good looks. And I felt early on we didn't make the good looks. And that kind of discouraged us and kind of took away our defensive intensity. We've been so much more aggressive the last 3 games and decisive and assertive the last 3 games than we were today. And I think not making shots kind of had a negative impact on just our overall disposition tonight, which can't be the case. When you are missing shots, you got to dig even deeper and give greater effort. But that just wasn't the case tonight. So we'll watch the film. We'll see what we can do better come Sunday and try to win a Game 7, another Game 7 for us.
Coach, not to pile on about the missed shots, but and you mentioned the rebounding. When they're open looks, but there's not as many rebounders or people near the glass, I guess how much is it, a chicken and an egg kind of deal there?
Give me the question again.
Well, I guess I'm saying they're taking open looks, but you had so many guys in the perimeter and almost nobody inside, which then leads to easy rebounds and leads to them going the other way. Like, So is it almost like a false positive that those looks are that open with nobody underneath?
Well, obviously, going 7 of 36 from three and shooting 30 from the field is problematic in and of itself. Not making shots, not making open shots. We never, aside from the 9-2 start. Well, I guess to start I left Nikola in to start the second, realizing that this game was about to get away from us. So I'm going to leave him in the game, and we cut it to 11. And then they went on another big run, 13-0, which put it to 24. And then late in that second, I'm saying, let's cut it to 14 by the half. Just kind of stay within striking distance. We get a stop. We try to throw a run out, a turnover. They score again. So now we're down, 17 or 19 at the half. But yeah, we can be a lot more. Instead of just all standing on the perimeter, we can be a lot more aggressive to the basket, not just settle for threes. And obviously, to your point, a 62 to 43 rebound margin. That is a 19 rebound differential. And that, to me, speaks volumes about the game and our approach.
Coach, similar to, for Game 5, you guys made Anthony C. bodies. And, it seems like Minnesota kind of did the same with Nikola tonight. How did you guys, respond to that? And how much is this series coming down to, not the role players, but the others, performing really well?
Well, it always helps when the others, like people like to call our guys. No. I didn't take it as I understand that. I didn't take it in any negative way. Like for them, McDaniels tonight is by far our best game of the series. He played great. 21 points, 4 rebounds, 2 blocks. Ant's going to give you what Ant's going to give you, and their bench scored 23. Our bench scored 2. So. In Game 5, we were effective getting the ball out of his hands. Tonight, we weren't. And they knew it was coming, and they did a really good job of moving the ball and attacking behind it. And then with Nikola, obviously after the performance he put on, they said, hey, we're going to double team him. And we have to do a better job of spacing, reacting. And then the bottom line is that they're going to put 2 on the ball. We got to make them pay. And we didn't do that tonight. So they can just stay with that over and over and over again. And just like in Game 5, we put 2 on Ant, and they didn't make it.
Okay. Was going through some technical issues there. I apologize. Darren Dutchyshen is now on our screen. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to fire that back up again. And just give me 1 second, okay?
Mike.
5, you got.
Ant's going to give you what Ant's going to give you, and their bench scored 23. Our bench scored 2. So in Game 5, we were effective getting the ball out of his hands. Tonight, we weren't. And they knew it was coming, and they did a really good job of moving the ball and attacking behind it. And then with Nikola, obviously after the performance he put on, they said, hey, we're going to double team him. And we have to do a better job of spacing, reacting. And then the bottom line is that they're going to put 2 on the ball. We got to make them pay. And we didn't do that tonight.
Can everyone tell me, are you hearing this mic? Just give me a yes or no. Are you hearing my regular voice, or are you hearing me through the computer mic? I'm not understanding why this is not coming through my headphones, which is really freaking me out here. 1 second. Check. Regular voice.
So they can just stay with that over and over and over again. And just like in Game 5, we put 2 on Ant, and they didn't make us pay, and it was effective. Tonight it wasn't. So the good thing is we'll go home, again, watch this film, and understand there are going to be things that we can do differently from a game plan standpoint. But to me, the much bigger issue is we have to do a lot better job of being locked in and ready to play in a Game 7. And again, those are the 2 greatest words in sports, Game 7. So hopefully our guys in front of an amazing crowd will be ready to go when we have the intangibles the way we've had them for the last 3 games prior to tonight.
One more. I just wanted to follow up on that. What is your experience in Game 7s, and what do you expect on Sunday? Just the unique nature of that game.
Well, our experience is pretty positive. So I'll leave it at that. Do your homework.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay. Crookie22 saying never seen such a good cam at a post game. NBA. Yep. That's true. They do. Okay. Can everyone tell me, like, are you hearing me as like do I sound, do you hear that tapping? Do you hear it? I have to make sure, because I'm not understanding why. For whatever reason, I'm hearing everything on the screen coming through the speakers. I mean, it's really weird. I'm not going to be able to do what I wanted to do, but weird. Okay, this game sucked, but this is what happens when a team decides to show up in a really big way, and another team, frankly, does not show up at all. I think you hit it on the head. To start this game out, I felt the Denver Nuggets were going to smoke. I really felt like the Denver Nuggets were going to beat the crap out of the Minnesota Timberwolves. I thought, hey, they got their ass handed to them in game 1 and 2. There's no way they're going to sleep on this team again. They were missing the most makeable shots you can't even imagine. Like, everything was half in, half out. I think Michael Porter had a three that hit every part of the rim. Jamal Murray had floaters. Nikola Jokic missed easy ones. And it was just easy one, easy one, easy one. And then, they started to run in transition and they got out to that 9-2 lead. And the Timberwolves, for their part, were just very malaise and very calm. And quite frankly, they did not look right to me. And I was like, okay, this is a team that kind of knows they're cooked and they're going to come out and they've got a hangover from what Jokic did to them last game. And, maybe working on that Nikola Jokic video, that proclamation of look how great he is, no one can stop him, he's the greatest player in human history, had me maybe over feeling myself, because I walked into this game very, very confident that this was over, and I'm wrong. I'm just straight up wrong. And if you think that means that I'm going to pick Minnesota to come out and win in game 7, you're crazy. I don't think they're going to win in game 7. I believe it will go to Denver. It looks really bad though, right? 70-115. It was worse at one point. Let's take a look at it. It was bad. Like, it was getting whopped. Like, there's so much you have to do to score on this defense, quite frankly, that to not show up is to get like humiliated. And that's what happened in game 1 and game 2. And frankly, that's what happened in game 3. The game plan for the Denver Nuggets was very simple. We are going to double very conservatively, but very actively on Nikola Jokic. They did it in a very controlled way. They were super assertive. Dude, they did not let him dribble the ball for 2 seconds without seeing a second defender. And Jokic picks apart double teams. That's kind of what he does. But what they did was, because I believe the Denver Nuggets spacing was not necessarily as good as it needed to be, and their shot makers were obviously not making shots. Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, etc., KCP, like, they had a lot of just duds on the court tonight. And there wasn't that quick. Shooters were open. You can't double someone as good as Nikola Jokic and not give up open shots. The problem is what happens when all your open shots miss, right? And look, this is maybe why there have been so many blowouts in this series, because, the other guys, apart from Anthony Edwards and Nikola Jokic, have been so goddamn inconsistent. You have Michael Porter Jr., who had a really bad game a couple games ago, and I believe last game, where he just, just complete no-show, and they survive, right? Because Jokic is going to put the team on the back and he's going to be able to do some crazy stuff. But they realized, hey, we have one or two ways to approach this game. Either we're going to let Nikola Jokic score 40 or 50 points and get everyone feeling good and get our crowd out of it, or we are going to play by the rules of anyone but him. Literally anyone but him. And we're going to get Rudy Gobert off of him, and we're going to put Karl-Anthony Towns, and we're going to send Jaden McDaniels over as a second defender, and we're going to pressure all night, and we're going to get them frustrated again. And this Denver Nuggets team, despite being NBA champions, has time and time again shown that sometimes they fold, and they folded tonight. They folded very early. To take a look at the box score, very quickly. Nikola Jokic had 22 points on 19 attempts. By no one's definition was this a great game from Jokic. 22 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists might be box score wise one of his worst games ever, which is saying a lot, the standards that we hold him to. He only played 35 minutes tonight. Aaron Gordon with 12, 8, and 4. Jokic and Murray were the only guys to crack double digits. I'm losing my voice here again. Just nothing off the bench, right? Christian Brown had 2 points. It happened very late. It was a very authoritative dunk. Zeke Naji, total garbage time minutes. Like, I believe they went pretty much the entire game with no minutes and with no points off their bench, because every player who scored off the bench was basically a third stringer, right? Who didn't play until garbage time. Am I correct in that? Yeah. Peyton Watson, he got in the fourth quarter. Julian Strawther, fourth quarter. Zeke Naji, Jalen Pickett, all fourth quarter. Christian Brown would be the only guy, and I believe he only scored in the fourth quarter when he hit that dunk. So really, they got nothing off their bench. Their role players did not show up. They watched the Jokic masterclass in the last game and thought, big fella, I know we're all professional basketball players, but take us home. This is not a professional effort by the Denver Nuggets supporting cast. If I was Nikola Jokic, personally, I'm not Nikola Jokic. Probably for better or for worse, I'm not Nikola Jokic. But if I'm him, I'll probably break something in the locker room tonight and tell these motherfuckers to show up. You cannot ride a person's coattails any harder than the Denver Nuggets supporting cast is riding his coattails right now. He is serving up possibly some of the easiest looks of these guys' careers to them, and they are simply just fucking up. Like, I don't mean to be controversial or mean spirited in my basketball analysis here, but some of the decisions that these supporting players made on the Denver Nuggets. And look, I don't want to hear anything about, well, he's the MVP, so what? Look, this is the best defense in the NBA. They are literally tailor made to stop this one player. And so when that one player is making the right play consistently, what do you want him to do? You want him to go double teamed from 12, 15 feet. I mean, he's catching it so far out. The entry passes were not crisp tonight. The secondary passes were not crisp tonight. Some of the weak side passing was not crisp tonight. So the ball swings strong side. Jokic draws the second defender, kicks it out to the top. And then that second pass that's supposed to come out of that action is just not coming. The cut that's supposed to happen is just not coming. Rudy Gobert, credit where credit is due. Rudy Gobert and Jaden McDaniels were incredible tonight. I think Anthony Edwards, apart from that, constant wincing. I mean, man, limping, wincing, laying on the floor, really scary stuff for Anthony Edwards. A lot of people say he can't get injured. Oh, he absolutely can. He's a very physical player. And prayers up that he is healthy and ready up for game 7, because it's gearing up to be quite a friggin' matchup. But on their side, I mean, they didn't they didn't miss. It was just 3 upon 3, right? They got 3 at 5 from Jaden McDaniels. I mean, honestly, it sounds crazy to say, they probably could have won by more. They probably could have won by more. If they really, like, if someone had told them prior to the game that your salary is on the line if you don't beat this team by 60, they would have beat them by 60. Tonight, you saw athleticism, like a gap in athleticism that exists possibly more in this series than any other series. Every single position, the Nuggets have less athleticism. Every single position. They have been able to counter it with skill and size, but when athleticism starts moving at the pace that they're moving at, you get things like this. I keep going back to Rocky for whatever reason. I'm quoting Rocky quotes left, right, and center. Why am I quoting them? A film from the 70s and 80s? I don't know. But, it's a little bit like when Rocky got beat by Apollo Creed. And by Clubber Lang. Do you remember, like, I mean, it's just weird to bring this up, but this was a bit of a boxing match, right? And it's just Clubber is just fast. He's fast, man. He's greasy fast. He's hitting hard. There's like a force to him, and you gotta brace yourself for that. You gotta really prepare yourself for that. Give this video a W, or give me a W in the chat if you remember Rocky 3. But seriously, like, that first time that Rocky loses to Clubber Lang, that's what this felt like. This felt like Rocky versus Clubber Lang round 1. Now, will we get Rocky versus Clubber Lang the rematch in Game 7? We shall find out. But it is going to take a lot from the Denver Nuggets. They are going to have to meet force with force. They're going to have to meet speed with speed. They cannot challenge, defenders one on one, go two on one at the rim. They have to continue to trust the process. This is a veteran team. I trust that they will bring their A game at home. I do want to say the crowd played a huge role tonight. It's sometimes overstated to say how much the crowd can function as a buffer, an amplifier of runs, and a buffer to runs when you're the home team. This crowd was very quiet for the first little bit. I think when Denver got out to that 9-2 run, there was a lot of like murmurs, right? They were like, "Uh-oh, here we go again," because this is game 3 all over again, right? Game 4 specifically, I feel like Denver just took the crowd right out of it, and they just were dead the entire game. It's really hard to cheer your team on when you are down by 15, down by 17, down by 20, down by 22. Um, but then they just got it going, man. They got it going. They never looked back. Um, Around 20 down, I thought Denver's got to come back, right? Like at the half, you could hear Michael Malone saying like, let's get it down to 10. Let's get it down to 10. Well, that didn't happen. You end up, they ended up getting it up to 50. And look, a lot of talk over the last couple of days. Some of it I participated in. Damn, I freaking let it in some respects on various podcasts. This podcast on Player's Choice. I didn't care. I was willing to say it loud and proud. Denver in 6, man. Denver is going to win this in 6. And I thought they were serious about this. I thought, no way, after game 1 and 2, getting embarrassed the way they did, that they would do this again. And they did it again. They did it again. It is ridiculous. They got outshot from the field by 16%. They got doubled at the line. Sorry, they got outshot at the line. They got outshot at the field. They got doubled from 3-point range. I mean, they got out rebounded 62 to 43. It's just a ridiculous margin. They got out assisted. They got beaten every single way that you could ever imagine. And the biggest lead was 50. Denver Nuggets' biggest and only real lead. And right after being up 9-2, Minnesota went on a 20-0 run. And this game was curtains at that moment because they hit so hard. I don't know what was said in that timeout. I really don't. But it was probably the greatest speech in human history. I don't know who spoke. I don't know who said what. But that Minnesota team dialed up to a level that I was not prepared for after that game. Now, I do want to say, why am I still picking the Denver Nuggets in 7? Well, I'll put it this way. The margin of victory does not matter to me. It really doesn't. If you've ever played sports on any level, you know this can happen. It shouldn't happen. It definitely shouldn't happen in the playoffs. It shouldn't happen like this. There should be some professional pride by somebody to say, no, this is not happening. There is some pride here. We are not going to lose like this. Okay? That should happen. It didn't happen tonight. There was no pride. The Denver Nuggets surrendered offensive rebounds. It wasn't just the supporting cast. To end the first half, Nikola Jokic completely let that rebound go, and Jaden McDaniels gets that putback, which gives all the momentum that you've been building up going into the half, where you had almost cut it to down 20, and then it gives the momentum right back to them. This was just an insane game. Like I don't know how else to say it. It is like one of the craziest games I think I've ever watched in my life. Just in terms of what I expected to happen versus what happened, it's insanity. But again, things like this happen when teams are relatively evenly matched and one team brings it and the other team doesn't. I don't think the Raptors could have done this to the Denver Nuggets. Sure, you can't. Maybe the Raptors can't beat them by 50. You need a lot of things to go right for you, and you need a lot of things to go wrong for the other team for this to happen, right? But one of the things we say in basketball is control what you can control. Everyone has off shooting nights, but you shouldn't lose the effort battle on a night where you're losing the shooting battle, right? There is a level of professional pride. This does come down to leadership, and I'm sure that for the next 2 days, because it's Thursday, we're going into Friday, Saturday. That's 2 whole days of content. That's 2 whole days of overreactions. And I'm sure that's going to be 2 whole days of re-announcing Anthony Edwards as the guy, the future MVP of the league, which he may very well be. I'm sure there's another, 2 days of, I told you, no, told you Jokic wasn't really an MVP. An MVP would never let this happen. So let's make sure that we keep things in balance, right? Because coming into this game, this series was over. Coming into Game 3, the series was over. Well, the series is going Game 7. The two best words in sports, Game 7. But it's happening in Denver. It is happening in Denver. Now, Denver has shown that they are perfectly capable of losing a game on their home court. However, the record of teams winning a Game 7 on the road is abysmal. It's really bad. So if Denver wants this, they will get it. They are the more skilled team. They are the more experienced team. They have the best player. Regardless of what happened tonight, they still have the best player. Their players did not show up tonight. They just didn't show up tonight. What else can you say? They did not show up tonight. And if Minnesota starts feeling themselves after this game, because I feel like, to some extent, now some people are going to disagree with us, but I'm going to say it. I don't think they should have tried to beat them by this much. I don't think that you necessarily want to put the team that's better than you on red alert with 2 days to prepare and 2 days to think about it. They have to sit with this emotion on Friday. They have to sit with this emotion on Saturday, and then they're going to come out Sunday at home after, like, it would be sufficient to beat them by 20, 22, 23. I mean, in fairness, what more would you want, right? Rudy Gobert was still on the court with a 40-point lead. What was the point of that? I mean, is he impervious to injuries? Like, he's not. He is not immune to injuries, and so I think to some extent maybe you don't push it this much. These are the defending champions, right? And if you believe that they are defending champions, if you believe that they are worthy defending champions, now obviously, I don't know anyone in the Minnesota organization, so maybe they don't think that they're worthy defending champions. Maybe they think they're chumps. Maybe they think they're pathetic, soft, ineffectual. Maybe they think that they're softies. Maybe they think that they're the type of team that if you beat them by 50, they're going to implode. They're going to fold. Well, history has taught us that the Denver Nuggets are not that team. History has also taught us that Luka Doncic is not that guy either. So I don't think you necessarily want an extreme outcome. Weirdly enough, losing this game by 2 or 3 would have been much more of a devastating emotional blow than not showing up, right? Because I don't think anyone in Denver feels like they lost this game because Minnesota beat them. I think they all are sitting there saying, we beat ourselves. We didn't show up tonight and we got our ass handed to us. But here's the problem. And this just goes down to the psychology of sports sometimes. And it's really weird. Have you ever not studied for a test? I'm curious. Have you ever not studied for a test? Have you ever asked yourself the question, why do people procrastinate when it comes down to a big test, right? Jigsaw puzzle saying yes. Now, tell me something. Let's say, like, I'll give you an example. I tested gifted for math when I was in grade 4, grade 5. So I was very good at math through most of my life. When I came to Canada, I passed the Gauss exam, and I think I ranked top 40 or top 30, something in the top 50 in Ontario when it came to math. I was very good at math, even down to grade 1, grade 2, New York State. Yeah, I was great at math. Grade 10 happened. I got into a relationship with this girl. She had a spare when I had a math class. 15-year-old hormones, man. Skipped every single math class all year. I think I skipped 88 classes that year. I don't know how I didn't get suspended. Do you know what my final mark in math was that year? 5%. 5%. I got 5% in a math class. It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. It was, however, very easy to forge my report card that year for my mom to get a 95. But of course, she was wondering why the hell I was taking math again next year. However, I decided to basically use a spare before I was allowed to have a spare in order to, you know, hang out with my girlfriend during her spare. Now, that being said, I never felt like bad about it. You know what I mean? Now, the next year, I struggled with an English course. I think it was like no, it was history. Stupid. It was a history course. Um, and I got to tell you, like history was just never my subject. I don't know, maybe a memory thing or whatever. My mind worked very well with math, very well with business, but sometimes you have strengths and weaknesses, and history was not one of mine. Um, maybe I just didn't. Maybe I wasn't interested in Canadian history. I don't really know. Like American history was my thing. Black history, I understood those figures and subjects, but who is Sir John A. Macdonald? Who is Wilfrid Laurier? I didn't know, and I guess I just didn't get into it. And so I ended up getting like a 57. But I tried. I tried towards the end, at least. I did try. But I got like a 57. It was like my lowest mark I think I'd ever gotten in my life, and that hurt. So how did a 57 hurt and a 5% didn't hurt? I think it's because when you try, there's an emotional investment into it. I don't think anyone in that Denver locker room can look at themselves and say, I really put my best effort tonight and I still lost. But that's why tough, close games sometimes where you really scrap and you really come out and you really push, they are extremely backbreaking for you because you did try and you got beat. And when you try super hard and you get beat, you have questions for yourself. Am I better than this team? Did they beat me fair? You know? Um, what made Michael Jordan so great is the number of times where he didn't try or he didn't show up was so limited, right? He didn't have a lot of duds like this. He didn't have a lot of no shows. But need I remind you, the 72 Bulls still lost to the expansion era Raptors. It does happen. It's human nature. There's always going to be that night, right? Where your shots don't fall and the other team can't miss. These are NBA players. Shit happens. Shooting luck happens. Variance happens. It bounces out over a full year or it bounces out over a 7-game series. But in 48 minutes, one team's really feeling it for 22 minutes. The game could be over. That's why game sevens are so risky. That's why playing with your food, especially with a team this athletic and this capable of catching fire. You see, because there's no question that the Denver Nuggets are the worst defensive team. There's no question that the Denver Nuggets are the smaller team. There's no question that the Denver Nuggets are the less deep team. So they're the shallower team. There's no question that the Denver Nuggets are the less athletic team. There's no question that the Denver Nuggets are the slower team. So if you play around with your food a little bit, you risk having a cold shooting night in a game 7. And that's what scares me. That you could have a really cold shooting night in which you try super hard defensively. The Denver Nuggets trying full force defensively are not as good as the Minnesota Timberwolves defensively. So you will always lose that battle every night. You lose that battle 10 times out of 10 every single night. You try your hardest. They play neutral. They will still beat you defensively. However, the last 3 games, the Denver Nuggets have simply just beat them offensively. Now, flip it around. What if they have like a normal shooting night? Like, what if they just catch fire? Like, you have two number 1 picks on the other side, Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards. And Karl Anthony Towns has been really good on the road. He's been really good on the road. So this is a guy who can put up 40 on you. And it's not like you have some incredible matchup to stop him. You don't have a paint defender who, if Karl Anthony Towns commits his brain to, I'm going to score 40 points tonight, you're not stopping that. You don't have the personnel to stop that. Now, they're probably not going to do that, but I'm just saying, if Karl Anthony Towns or Anthony Edwards get going in game 7, this could be curtains for the Denver Nuggets. So I say this was a lack of humility. This was a lack of professionalism. This was a lack of showing up. This was going to be a really hard game to win regardless, but you owed it to yourself to work hard. Now, is this the equivalent of potentially, just potentially, is this the equivalent of the Knicks throwing game 4 in order to win game 5? Is this the equivalent of that? Right? Like, is this the equivalent of just mailing it in, just saying, you know what, we're using this as a rest day. We're going to bring our scrimmage energy. If y'all want to stop us by 40 and feel nice about yourselves, do it. Denver got to take care of game 7. He's saying Nuggets need poutine. I mean, I don't know what that means, but sure. Sammy Gomez saying beating the Wolves 4 times in a row is going to be a tall task, especially in mini. Like, I think honestly, coming into this series, I think a lot of people would have predicted a long series, 6-7 games. I just felt that so much of the momentum had shifted to Denver's side, and I didn't really feel very good about what Minnesota was talking about and their body language in the last game. And so, kudos to them. They came out and they played hard. Very professional effort. They scored about 105 points per 100 possessions in the half court, and they held Denver to about 65 points per possession in the half court, 65 points per 100 possessions in the half court. That is insanity. Like, that is some of the greatest defense of all time. Like, that is all-time defensive effort. Now, again, exacerbated by stupid offensive process, right? Aaron Gordon just losing his mind a couple times. Jamal Murray really forcing shots and just not being tough with the basketball. I mean, there were turnovers galore tonight, like really, really bad ones. You had Nikola Jokic with 3, Jamal Murray with 2. They were bad turnovers. Aaron Gordon with 2. Just really cold shooting. A lot of settling for shots. I felt like Nikola Jokic settled for shots. Quite frankly, I thought Anthony Edwards settled for a lot of shots too. They were not guarding him enough for him to be settling for some of those shots. But the more he hit those shots, I mean, unlike the Denver Nuggets, he actually hit most of his threes tonight. I think he went 4 for 9. Did he go 4 for 9? Let me see this here. Yes, he did go 4 for 9 from 3. Karl-Anthony Towns, he was pretty much a non-factor tonight. Offensively, at least, right? Like, I mean, he did not shoot a single 3. Like, he did not make a single 3. He had, like, it's just an unbelievable game from Karl-Anthony Towns. So, yeah, I mean, but he's going to show up on the road in a big way. I can feel it. Like, it's a gut thing, right? Like, you just feel it with him. Like, tonight, 10 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 for 10 shooting. Like, he didn't have to force anything. Anthony Edwards, 27 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Like, again, this is soft work, right? It was really just, and of course, having Mike Conley back, Naz Reid off the bench was just very instrumental. So I think going forward, I'm very curious to see what happens in game 6 in Indiana. Indiana, New York. That series is heading for game 6. New York wins the pivotal game 5. The Indiana Pacers walk into that game favored to win by considerable margin, actually. I believe they're like 5 or 6 point favorites at this point. So it'll be very interesting to see if Indiana fights as hard as Minnesota fought tonight. I have my doubts. There's also another series that is hanging in the balance in a game 6, which is OKC Mavs. And that's another series that could go 7. So the league has that one series that's over, but there are 3 series that are wide open right now. One of them, this series, is going for a monumental game 7, which I'm sure everyone is going to tune in, and everyone's going to have very, very hot takes after about how trash Jokic is or how trash Gobert is. It's interesting that the 2 international bigs have become the whipping boys on either side. But it is interesting, of course, when we say that Rudy Gobert is trash as a defender, that we completely ignore that he is still a very, very good defender. Maybe he's not 3-time defensive player of the year, 4-time defensive player of the year, whatever he is, good, but really he is that good. And he was that good tonight. But regardless of how great you are as a defender, like Dennis Rodman was a great defender, doesn't mean he can guard Hakeem Olajuwon, right? Guarding any superstar one-on-one should be impossible. Like, there are a lot of really good defenders. Michael Cooper was a great defender. Great defender. Do you know that Michael Cooper got cooked by 17-year-old Kobe Bryant? AT04 is saying, who do you think is a better Jokic defender, Wemby or Rudy? Neither, probably. I mean, honestly, but long term, definitely Wembanyama. He's going to be able to offer crazy length to the point where, I mean, you just need some maturation. Neither one of them can really guard him one on one. I don't see a world in which anyone's going to be able to guard him one on one because he's so crafty. But um, that doesn't mean that you can't offer elite team schemes around shot blockers like that, right? Country Kong saying, "What an interesting turn of events." Yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of basketball, you probably are happy. I mean, you should be happy, regardless of which team you're rooting for. And I'm sure there are people in this community who are very big Denver fans, because I'm a big Denver fan. And I'm sure if you're watching this, you probably are coming here for my very pro Denver takes. But I'm also a very big fan of the Minnesota Timberwolves in terms of what they've done and what the way they play. I don't think either team should be taken lightly in the Western Conference Finals nor the finals. I don't think that Dallas is going to have an easy time beating any of these teams or OKC. Like, I'm not willing to completely write off OKC yet either. There was a very interesting thing that happened, and we're going to talk about it. So just tailing off this segment, and we're going to go to Raptors something. This was a Bob McCowan segment yesterday. Let me know if you saw it already on Twitter, but we're going to get to something that Bob McCowan said. Wait, nope, missed it. Shoot. I got to download this. Hang on one second, guys. And it was just basically about Scotty Barnes versus Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and we got to talk about it because I think it's been relentless like for years now, right? This media base has had like this very strange obsession with sort of like writing off Scotty Barnes. I mean, from the draft to after his rookie season when they didn't trade him for Kevin Durant. It's like, how can you not trade him for Kevin Durant? To his sophomore slump, they considered a sophomore slump in which he didn't apparently work hard, to now apparently he's not Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And it's really weird how the bar just continues to fall. First he wasn't as good as Jalen Suggs, so he's bad. But now he's not as good as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, so he's bad. And I'm sure once he's better than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, if he ever is better than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he'll be bad because he's not better than Michael Jordan. It's so weird. Like speaking comparatively, it's good to balance out and have some perspective on who we're talking about sometimes. Um, Malik Crowsdale saying, I was surprised by his take. I don't really know who he is. Well, he's a pretty big OG in the Toronto media space, and he's very well connected, and he's obviously very close with guys like Jack Armstrong and guys like Paul Jones and guys who cover the Raptors, and obviously he is close with JD Bunkus and Sid Cicero and all the regular faces that color your Toronto media, from Tim McAuliffe to the guy on your screen, Darren Dutchyshen. So the media space is a very closed space, and I had a chance to meet a few of these people in 2008, 2009, 2010. Didn't really stay too close with them. I just didn't fit in, frankly. And that was probably partially me, partially them, partially me not being very Canadian, partially me not being a very big fan of hockey. I mean, there's a lot of hurdles you got to jump through. But this is a hockey guy for sure. And his takes on Scotty Barnes have never stopped irritating me. So let's listen to what Bob McCowan had to say about Scotty Barnes.
On his shoulders and carry them. He's not that good. Not that good.
Bob, I think he is. I
know you do. You said that before.
Yeah,
Respect that, but I think you're wrong.
But I look at a team that we're watching in the playoffs now, like Oklahoma City, and they're just filled with young guys, and they were the number one seed this year. And I've had this argument with the Twitter sphere or the people in social media or whatever, that I thought Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was the MVP this year. With all due respect to
I might have been. I wouldn't disagree with that. Yep.
Yeah, with all due respect to Jokic and
I don't understand. This is something my girlfriend and I have like constant fights about. Why do you have to have an opinion on everything? Like, it's really like, it's so important to me that um, if you're going to have an opinion about something, be informed about it. If I want to have an opinion about hockey, have you ever heard me espouse an opinion about the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Toronto Blue Jays? Have you ever heard me say like, "Oh, this player on the Blue Jays sucks," or "This player on the Leafs sucks"? You know why I don't? You know why I don't present those opinions? Because I don't watch those teams. And you know why he shouldn't talk about Scotty Barnes and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Nikola Jokic? Because he don't watch those teams. He's not watching Nikola Jokic. I guarantee you this man is not watching the playoffs right now. I guarantee you if he's not watching the playoffs, he didn't watch the regular season. So why are you so gung-ho and so opinionated about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being the MVP or Scotty Barnes not being him? They said he scored 19 points per game. I mean, his take is always going to be a really, really idiotic one. But
what he accomplished, people said, well, Shea averaged 30 last year. And all they did was, maybe more of the credit should go to Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams.
It should.
I said, yeah, but Michael was still scoring 63, and when he got Scotty and some other people to help, they won. But he was still the guy pulling the cart. And Oklahoma City's kind of an example. They went from really bad to losing into the play, and I don't think anybody expected to jump to number one this year. But they did it, and that's why I think he should be MVP. Now, I'm not saying Scotty Barnes is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because when Shai was drafted,
not in the same league. He just had to throw that in there, right? Not in the same league. All right. How are we coming to that conclusion, right? Shai was the 11th, 12th pick. I believe Shai is a one-time All-Star. Scotty's a one-time All-Star. Now that's not a great argument, but Scotty's an all-star, bro. Like, he's an all-star. By definition, that means he's at least a top 30 player. And by the way, he made all-star not by fan vote, by commissioner vote. That should matter for a lot. He also made all-star not as a token all-star, but as an all-star who was a rare all-star, where he beat out players on winning teams that were very deserving and could have made it, like Derek White. Do we remember the time that Atlanta Hawks had like 4 all-stars? Yeah, they tend to prioritize winning a lot when handing out all-stars. The fact that a guy on a losing team made the all-star game should tell you how good he actually is. Scotty Barnes, at the time he made the all-star game, for the games that were factored into the voting, was a top 20 player in the league. And that is not cap. That is not a lie. Those are the numbers. He was a top 20 player. His athletic, passing, impact, everything is like, he's better than Shai at a lot of stuff right now. Shai is a considerably better thing. He's a better shooter. Obviously, Shai's a better shooter. He's a craftier player. He's a craftier ball handler. He's a better shot maker. Shai's better getting to the line. But Scotty has advantages already in this matchup, and he's 3 years younger. I don't understand this take. It's ridiculous.
When Shai was drafted in LA, I remember Raptor assistant coach, former Raptor assistant Rex Kalamian telling me, this kid's going to be a star. And at that point, Rex said,
they're talking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, by the way, not Scotty.
How do I get the job coaching Team Canada to work with this guy and some of the other young Canadian kids? Mm-hmm. And here we are years later. He's an MVP candidate. Canada's going to the Olympics. But my point is, if you have a young guy who can pull the cart and has help, then you can turn it around. And I really do. I know, Bob, we disagree on this, but I think Scotty could be that guy.
But Gilgeous-Alexander's 25. Barnes is 22.
Right.
That's a huge maturation in 3 years. Both physically and mentally.
Yeah. And as I said to you, I'm willing to give it 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know if there's any other way, John. And yeah, you can use your draft picks, as the Raptors have, to trade for some vets here and there, make some moves. Like the Bruce Brown situation is going to be very interesting. I like the guy. I think he's his timeline's not that far off. he's a good young vet, but with championship experience, but he costs a lot this year.
But he might have
23.
more value as a trade commodity than
Bingo.
anything else.
And when do you
And here's the question. If you hold on to Bruce Brown for $22 million, what contender is like, yeah, that guy's going to help me way more than my draft picks? And why is he the guy? I mean, bro, like we just saw Daniel Gafford get traded at the deadline for picks. Does Bruce Brown strike you as valuable around the league as PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford? Like these guys are really like selling themselves on complete myth. Anyways, I'm not going to play the whole friggin' thing. It's crazy to just play a whole podcast. That would be probably unethical, but I just wanted people to just get an idea. I know that a lot of Toronto media have gotten very tame about their Scotty agendas because he's quite frankly had a pretty good year. We got to see the team without him. It didn't look very good, but I promise you, the second this guy stumbles, the vultures will come out for him. You need to be aware of this. You know, this resentment existed with Vince as well. Not right away, but over some period of time, it built up and built up and built up. Those relationships were not nurtured. These guys are very, very big on their relationships. They're very big on greasing palms. You know, Fred went through struggle after struggle after struggle. They never really turned on him. Did you notice that? He always gave them access. He always played nice with the media. These people are a problem. They're a really big problem. They're a really big problem because whether or not I like you should have nothing to do with how I cover you. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. It should not. How you play on the basketball court, you know, I may not have liked Fred VanVleet very much during his time, especially the last 2 years. I really didn't like him very much. When he played well, I had no doubt I had to give him credit. Right now, he's playing really well, and I even if I didn't like him and I got branded as his Fred hater, I always opened up and said he was a better player than Dennis Schroeder. I was never gonna come out and be like, yeah, let me pile on the Fred hate by saying no. Objective analysis, and you know it would be really, really disingenuous to say that Dennis Schroeder is better than Fred VanVleet because I don't like Fred VanVleet. It's very stupid. It's very unethical. So there got guys here, you know, and you know it's weird because it doesn't just exist in this media space. It exists in a lot of media spaces. There is a pretty anti-Scotty bias across the board, and I feel it. I see it. I'm very aware of it, and please know that if you know the pendulum ever swings back to where these people get very, very loud with their false criticisms and stuff, that I will be right here, bigger and better and more prepared this time than I was last time. More influential, more subscribers. Like we're just gonna keep growing this thing, and you know, it might seem delusional to say that we'll be a check against this stuff, but I always wanted to be a check against misinformation. I always wanted to be a check against bias. I always wanted to do that because, you know, when I was young and I was watching people say things about Michael Jordan or Kevin Durant or Vince Carter or any player that I really liked that I felt were very untrue, I was like, man, this needs a counterpoint. We need somebody to say the other side that people aren't saying when people get really egged on. And so, you know, when a lot of the Jokic hate came after game 2, you saw it. You know, I went on a mission, right? And I started saying a lot of stuff, and I started making videos about Jokic and trying to spin the narrative away from what Gilbert Arenas and Shaquille O'Neal and guys like this want it to be. So, yeah, that's at least part of the function of this channel, is to be a counterbalance. Sadu saying Montreal, we need an NBA team. Sure. Ticket TV was calling him trash MVP. Cool. Good for Ticket. Montreal versus Toronto NBA games. Sadu, not that I want to micromanage this, but is there some particular reason why you have caps lock on permanently? It's kind of irritating. If you really want your chat to stand out, you can always do a super chat or something, but yeah, Ticket is goofy. He can be sometimes. Teacher Mike at his full potential, he can be. Can be what? Wasn't Scotty known for his fourth quarter heroics? Isn't that the point of putting a team on your back? Facts. Absolutely. Scotty was one of the five most clutch players even during his struggle season. And so, you know, we saw what he was with capable players around him with Pascal and OG. And so, it's interesting. I'll end this on who is the real, it's funny. Every time I go on a podcast with a baseball hat, people start calling me Eminem. I don't know. I don't think I look like Eminem at all. But for whatever reason, and I don't know why, it's maybe if I'm wearing wearing the headphones and the black hat or whatever, and maybe people call me Eminem. So would the real Scotty Barnes please stand up? There's an element of that to this, right? Dust Taker saying you don't. That's what I thought. I don't think I look like Eminem at all. But regardless. And it's funny. We've gone 7 games. We got 6 games into this Minnesota and Denver series. And frankly, I don't think we've seen either team's best shot yet. 1. Number 2, I don't even know who these teams are yet. We're 6 games in and I still don't know who these teams are. Can you conclusively tell me that if Denver and Minnesota show up on the same night, who would win? Because we've seen Tariq saying you look at the OKC coach. See, I don't see that either. Mark Dagnall has a very different face to me, but I get it. My girlfriend resents that very much. Toronto media is the reason Vince left. Yeah. Bert saying Serbian Eminem, maybe. It's not Eminem like the candy, bro. It's Eminem like EM. Anyway, so it's the same thing with Scotty Barnes, right? Now, if the player we saw to start the season motivated on a winning team, well, not on a winning team, but on a team which had guys who could be competitive with him, he was not the problem the first 35 games of the season. I'll tell you that. First, it was Pascal, frankly, and then it was OG's defense plus, Gary not hitting shots, Dennis, being very inconsistent, and a lot of stuff not benched. You're not going to blame Scotty Barnes because Jalen McDaniels and Grady Dick and Gary Trent Jr. couldn't buy a fucking shot to save their lives. You just can't blame him for that, right? So I feel like his component of what he did in the first 25 to 30 games to save this core from being traded and disbanded, because you can tell that was a really big focus of his. Like the shooting, if that's real, if I'm not saying 40% shooting is real, 40% from 3, but even if 36% is real. See, I don't know if he's the 26% 3-point shooter that he was to end the season, or if he's like the 40% 3-point shooter he was to start the season. Truth is probably somewhere in the middle, even though that feels like maybe a lazy take. Maybe he's a 35%, 34% 3-point shooter. That is sufficient. It should get better. We hope it gets better, but 34% on decent volume is not the worst outcome in the world. He didn't come out of college as, Ray Allen. So I think that's important. And, again, the analytical impact, what he was on pace to do versus where he ended up is very, very far. His first 35 games are actually better than the first 35 games of Shea's third year. But his season overall was just narrowly worse than Shea's third season. And so he's on track to be a really great player. Is he on track to be an MVP? I'd be lying if I told you he's on track right now to be an MVP. The first 3 seasons he's had, he's on track to be second team All-NBA, third team All-NBA. It's going to require a lot of work and a lot of surprising growth spurts for him to be on the MVP track. And frankly, even if you are an MVP, you may never win it. Shea had an MVP season this year. Luka had an MVP season here. Joel Embiid had an MVP season this year. There's like 6 MVP seasons this year. Only one winner, right? So that's kind of where it comes up to, right? But is he on the Jokic level? Is he heading to that? Is he heading towards Luka Doncic and maybe even like a young James Harden? Like, is he going that way, or is he going more on the Paul George? Is he going more towards the Paul George, Jermaine O'Neal level of star? Right now, he's heading more towards Paul George and Jermaine O'Neal. There is, however, a part of me, and there's like A class, right? There's A class, and then there's maybe like an A1B, like Jermaine O'Neal finished top 5 in MVP voting one year. He was no scrub. But I don't think anyone in their good consciousness ever confused him for Kevin Garnett. There was a level to this, and Kevin Garnett was on that A class, right? Tim Duncan was on that A class. Very few guys ever touched that air. it requires a lot of hard work, a lot of discipline, a lot of health, a lot of, great teammates. It requires a lot of things. It requires a lot of discipline. So he is on track to be right now. If I wasn't one of his biggest fans in the whole world and I just looked at his career objectively to date, I would project Scotty to be a 6-time All-Star. That would be my realistic projection for him going forward. 6-time All-Star in a weaker conference. Okay. That's kind of where I'm at with someone like Alperen Şengün right now. Maybe a 5-time All-Star. That's kind of where I'm at with a guy like Karl-Anthony Towns. If I were to project Victor Wembanyama's, future right now as an objective fan, not one of his biggest fans, just kind of looking back, Victor Wembanyama to me right now, again, 1 year in to his career, feels like a 3-time MVP. There's a gap, right? There is a gap. Now, does that mean I'm agreeing with Bob McCowan that he's not on the level of Shea? No, because it's way too early to tell. I'm saying that my best guess at the age of 22, if I was not biased, if I didn't watch him as often as I did, just looking objectively, if we replace the name Scotty Barnes, replace the name on the front of his jersey, and all those stats and all that work that he put in was Paolo Banchero on the on the Orlando Magic or Jalen Suggs on the Orlando Magic, I'd be saying they're probably going to be a 5-6-time All-Star. The reason I feel Scotty will be much more than a 5 to 6-time All-Star is because of how smart he is, because of how hard he works, and frankly, because of how physical he is and how tailor-made he is for the modern NBA. And also, I think the organization that he plays for helps, knowing that they will put pieces around him to optimize him. So, yeah, I do not get what the hell this is. Am I missing something? What is this? Did you fall asleep? I have no idea. RJ Barrett needs to get to that All-Star level. I feel is close. I don't feel he's close, but it would be great for Toronto if he ever gets to that level. That'd be awesome. If I had to project RJ's career, I would project a 0-time All-Star right now. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have the talent. He could have the talent to be like a 3-time All-Star, and that would be a great outcome for the Raptors. If I had to take a wager right now, I would project the most likely All-Star besides Scotty Barnes on this team would be Immanuel Quickley. Beyond that, it would be Grady Dick. Beyond that, it would be RJ Barrett. So, yeah. Paradise Lost saying, "What's up with Nuggets?" Good question. RJ is powerful though. RJ was balling before he got traded. Not really. He balled way more after he got traded. Death 4K saying RJ is better than Scott. Is RJ better than Scotty as a scorer? No, but he is more polished as a ball handler. And he's much better getting to the line. But I don't think he's a better scorer. But I mean, you could make a case that he's a better scorer. He's just not a better passer, not a better player overall, not a bigger player, not a better athlete, not a better defender, not a better transition player, et cetera, not a better, pick and roll ball handler, not a better communicator. A lot of things lean in Scotty's favor. But yes, I mean, if hypothetically you could just take all of RJ's handle and RJ's, sizzle rizzle and, his ability to kind of get through gaps in the defense and just kind of draw contact and the craft with which he works. Yeah, I think Scotty would be a better player if he had all of that. The problem is that the things that Scotty does better than RJ are really hard to gap this late into his career. But he's 23 years old, going on 24. I am really hoping for a big summer for RJ Barrett. And man, if he pops for the Raptors, holy crap, this season just changes a lot. Because if Scotty has like that consistent second option in him, then Immanuel Quickley slots over to third and Grady Dick slots over to like fourth or fifth or sixth or whatever. And suddenly like you've got great. Tariq saying, do you like the current Raptors jerseys? It's kind of trash. I believe they're going through a jersey change. Are they not? saying Jamal Murray's injured. Um, did they say that after the game? I mean, he played horribly. I mean, I don't want to harp on how horribly he played, but he played pretty bad. Let me see if Jamal Murray's post game is up. Like, did he even do post games? He doesn't do post games usually after. I don't want to say he doesn't do post games after losses, but he has skipped out on the media a few times after big losses. So, game today. Oh, he did. Shit. Okay. Lesson learned. Hang on one sec. Okay, we're gonna go to the Jamal Murray post game. Please excuse me. I'm gonna be right back. Problem officially solved. Finally. Now, this will play off of the computer.
But also just missing shots. How much do you kind of attribute to you guys not executing your offense at the standard you needed to versus sort of just missing stuff that you feel like you can make in game 7?
Yeah, I mean, we know we're going to miss some big shots. I felt like we generated, especially in the first half, we generated some really good looks, you know, me and myself, but I think it's just both ends, you know. I think, you know, from experience, game 6, it's always the hardest. Everybody that's, you know, that team is gearing up to not get eliminated. They bring that right energy, and they came to play today. So, you know, just like how they punked us in game 2, we punked them in game 3 and 4. You know, they punked us again in game 6. So now all that's behind us, and it's just come down to one game.
Jamal, can you pinpoint, you know, where this kind of went off the rails for you guys? I mean, I know you guys started 9-2 and then you gave up a run immediately there, but was there a certain point where it went off the rails, or, you know, was it just one of those games for you guys?
I'm not really sure. I'll have to go back and rewatch it, man. But I think it was 9-2 for us to start the quarter. You know, we came out right, and then you know, they fired back, and we never responded. So I would say there probably in the first quarter. Even though we knew that we could cut the lead, we didn't do anything about it or change anything, and not game plan wise, but energy and discipline wise, we didn't change anything to shift the momentum in our favor.
How difficult did Anthony Edwards make it for you when he was checking in?
I mean, who? For me?
Yeah.
For me?
Yeah, for you.
I mean, it was more about my elbow at that point. You know, every time, even some passes, you know, my arm. But it was more offensive for him. It wasn't him guarding me. He was scoring at the other end, and scoring at a great rate. And then on top of that, you know, Mike Conley, you know, McDaniels had a great game. You know, I think everybody on their team kind of just brought their game today. You know, and we weren't able to defend them and keep them out of paint or get them off the line. So, yeah, we just got to be better. We got to be better.
Jamal, you mentioned your elbow. That happened pretty early, like first, second play of the game. So how, I guess, challenging was that? And then you had it iced at the end of the game. And so what's your concern level going into Sunday?
I'm just, you know, we got 2 days off, and, you know, it's all behind us now. You know, I just got to get ready and be able to be better for Sunday. You know, yeah, it's got to be better for Sunday, man.
Jamal, you're the defending champs. You were never pushed to the brink last year. What is your kind of thoughts on a Game 7? You've seemed to relish in those kind of moments as you think about it now.
I mean, that's why we fought for home court. You know, we were down 0-2 in the series, and we won 3 games straight. We knew that they're gonna respond eventually, and they did tonight. And we didn't hit back. We didn't do anything about it. It was kind of simple as that. So, you know, it's nice that we'll get to recoup, and at least we've given ourselves a chance to win the game on Sunday. So, you know, we'll use the home court advantage to our advantage, and you know, try to keep this thing going.
Jamal, it seems that blowouts don't really carry over and mean anything in the next game. So what's the level of confidence this team has that Game 7 you'll be able to approach that with a fresh new vision?
I think they carry over even more. I think, when you get beat like we did in Game 2, we carry that over and responded in the right way. And then when we beat them, they responded, and they responded in a big way. So I think it's all about the mindset. Now all that's behind us. All those games that we're talking about, it's all behind us. And now it's just Sunday. Who wins those 48 minutes and how we're going to do that.
Katie on the left.
Sorry. Jamal, what do you want to see your team do when you guys aren't making shots? Like, what do you need to get
Gotta
to?
defend. You just gotta be more physical. All in our spots. Early help. Rotating, communicating. I think that's the biggest thing. Every game during the season, you're gonna struggle offensively. But can you stop the other team from scoring when you're doing so? So I think that's our biggest challenge, man. Is just getting stops and runouts and just playing at our pace that we want to play at. So like I said, they had it today. I want to take no credit from Minnesota. They came to play. They brought that energy and they used the home crowd to their advantage. They all shot. Felt like they all shot well. So like I said, all that's behind us. Just gotta get ready for Sunday.
Jamal, real quick, with that play with the elbow, was that you like hitting the screen or was it a landing?
It was a screen.
Okay. And did it feel better throughout the course of the game at least, or was it pretty much there?
Clearly not. I put some numbing cream on it just so I didn't have to feel it every time I extended. But like I said, man, everybody gets hurt. Ant just got hurt game playing. So it was just the fact that I was shooting the ball, and that's what I do most. So I was never really get into my rhythm again, and my team obviously needed me to tonight, and I didn't. So I'm disappointed in myself for not being able to give them the right production that I know I can. So
does it feel like the kind of stinger that just with the 2 days off you feel like you can get over?
I mean, I hope. I hope for our team's sake. I hope for my team's sake that I can get it right. So
take one more from now, Alexander.
Jamal, how are you going to be preparing? How are you going to be spending the next 3 days? And do you think you guys will be watching these games or just forget about them and kind of start with a blank slate, so to speak? And
no, we got to watch it. Got to watch the games. Got to own it. We know we didn't play our best, but that's a sneak peek of what we're going to get Sunday, right? So I think everybody's being locked in and just owning the negativity, man. Like we played terrible. I played terrible. Own it, and let's use that to come out in front of our home fans and play the right way. So we're gonna learn from that film for sure and be better.
Is there gonna be pressure or?
You gotta go. Thanks, Jamal. Appreciate you.
No pressure, man. It comes down to one game and who's gonna play better that day.
Okay. Gone said even Rachel Nichols predicted Timberwolves victory, and then she said Nuggets in 7. She's underrated. Interesting. Yeah. Anyways, overall, really tough loss, but a loss is a loss. It counts the same. The term is a war of attrition, right? And I think the playoffs are a war of attrition, and there's a game within a game in every series. We've heard it time and time again, right? Team goes down 0-1, everyone says it's over. Team goes down 0-2, everyone predicts a sweep. Team comes back, everyone predicts the game 4 loss. Then team comes back in game 4, everyone predicts a sweep for the other team or reverse sweep, and we are very, very much prisoners of the moment when it comes to this series. I think this series has been a good example of overreacting to things. I don't think the Minnesota Timberwolves are as bad as they looked in the last, 2 games. I don't think the Denver Nuggets are as bad as they looked tonight. I think Jamal Murray is correct. They did not punch back. They needed to punch back. Dust Taker saying each game has its own identity. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I think if Nuggets lose, the NBA media will throw Jokic under the bus and call him a fraud. I feel it already. They might, but I think more so than anything after what he did in game 5 and what he's been able to do as a response. I think more or less the take for ESPN and all these places is going to be like, oh, the Nuggets, they need to, revamp the supporting cast and this and that, not realizing, of course, that the Nuggets are in a transition phase, right? Like they are a lot of veterans, right? That were part of the initial run up to the team that eventually won. Guys like Will Barton, guys like Jeff Green, who had been part of the program through varying degrees, from the bubble onward, from when they started to ascend. Um, they also don't realize perhaps that, hey, Jamal Murray is not done growing as a player. Michael Porter Jr. is not done growing as a player. These guys can still get better. Yeah, I just don't think it's a lock that they're going to repeat as champions, but I do think that whoever gets out of this series is has a much. I think. Okay, let me put it this way: whoever gets out of this series is going to have an easier time in the next round than they did in this round. I mean, that being said, if Luka gets healthy, maybe not. But yeah, I would be very, very interested to see how the Dallas Mavericks plan on guarding the Nuggets, man. But I'd be even more interested to see how the Nuggets plan on guarding the Dallas Mavericks with everything that Luka is doing with Derek Jones and Derek Lively and the speed of that team and the craft of Kyrie and the lack of perimeter defenders. I mean, really, if you're thinking about it, it's Aaron Gordon and KCP. Peyton Watson's been out of the rotation. Christian Brown's all right. The Nuggets are not a good defensive team. They are not a good defensive team. So, Gone saying, loved your Jokic video, Rob. Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Like everyone seems to be like really loving this video, but the video is not doing very well. So if you don't mind on your way out of this live, go run it, like just run it in the background, like run it for like the full time. Yeah, the issue is click rate. So YouTube, to explain the YouTube algorithm in 12 seconds or less. Okay, it's not gonna be 12 seconds, it'll be 1 minute. So basically YouTube presents thumbnails for you on your timeline. Like when you open up YouTube, they present you with like 10, 12, 15, videos to scroll through. And technically that's a bid. It's a bid for your attention, right? So if you don't click on the Jokic video because you're used to me making Raptors content and you're just searching for Raptors content and that's who you're subscribed to, then you click on maybe the Raptors Digest video, but then you're like, wait, the YouTube algorithm is now very confused. They're like, hey, this guy usually makes Scotty Barnes videos and RJ Barrett videos and Pascal Siakam videos and Fred VanVleet videos. Suddenly he's making videos about another team and it gets a little bit confused. And so it doesn't show your video to the target demographic that it needs to be seen. Had this video been made by a Nuggets content creator, I'm pretty sure it would have 100,000 views by now, but it wasn't. But it's a very good video regardless. I'm very proud of it. I think it's good. It's a terribly timed video though, but it is interesting. And I do agree with the people who say I kind of dropped bars towards the end of it, right? Let me give you, to those of you who didn't watch it, I'll give you a little bit of it. The part that I'm really proud of, actually, hold on one second. Find it, download it, and then play it. I wish I could play the real version. Like I was really hoping the real version would go viral for real because that version I'm even more proud of. Like it hits, bro. It hits. And people were comparing it. They were like, it's poetry. It's like, is it like poetry? Is it kind of like a rap almost? It's a little bit. It's got that characteristic. Like towards the end, it gets a little bit passionate, but it is a pretty scripted. I mean, it's rare that I script a video on this channel. Like the last one was about Scotty and the Raptors being good a few years from now, and that was a snippet from a live. So really, I haven't scripted a video essay in a really long time. So to have it kind of do poorly kind of sucked. I didn't spend that much time, but I spent like a good 10 hours doing it. So I would love for it to do well, better than it's doing. Paradise Lost thing, I believe Nuggets miss Bruce Brown. He would help right now, believe it or not. I don't know if they miss him $22 million worth. I mean, you could definitely use that $22 million to do a lot more than Bruce Brown right now. Okay, hold on. Okay. So the part that I'm really proud of is
caring about your family, missing birthdays, abandoning your children meant you were committed to true love. They tried to tell me that loving basketball meant you didn't love other things. They tried to tell me that being great meant you always took the final shot. They told me that your teammates should fear you instead of revere you. They told me that analytics were overrated. They tried to tell me the Timberwolves were the best defense in the past 20 years, up there with the 04 Pistons and the 96 Bulls. They told me that caring about your teammates was soft, that if you didn't berate and ridicule your teammates, you had no dog. You weren't a real leader. I was told that Cat and Nas Reed were the solution, that they were the Jokic stoppers we've been searching for all along. I was told that greatness was measured through a relentless self-promotion and sneaker sales. They lied. They lied. They repeatedly lied. They told me that greatness came from big cities like New York and LA, not from small countries in Eastern Europe that make up for less than 0.1% of the world's population, even if they account for the best basketball player and the best tennis player in the whole damn world. They told me Europeans were soft like Charmin. Gil even told me Europeans needed to be banned from the NBA. They lied. Thank you, Nikola Jokic, for reminding us that it's perfectly possible to be the best player in the world without being a diva, without being a bad teammate, without being arrogant, without stat padding, without chasing MVPs, without berating your teammates, without switching teams 4 times, without ring chasing, and without being a coach killer. I told you Nikola Jokic ruined the game. I lied. He didn't ruin the game. He brought it back to where it used to be before we lost our damn minds. To support more rants about basketball like this, please hit subscribe for more Jokic videos. Click one of the videos on the screen.
I have a feeling that I always, when I make video essays, which is rare on this channel, admittedly, I need to do more if I want to grow this channel. And I'm kind of like trying to do a home run towards, not a home run, like a sprint towards 10,000 subscribers. I keep thinking about that number, 10,000. I'm like, I want to just get there so that I can stop thinking about 10. It was kind of like when we were going up to 5, like when we were at like that 4,700 mark, it just feels like a milestone. And then when I get to 10, I'm going to want 20. When I get to 20, I'm going to want 100. And when I get to 100, I'm going to want 500. And when I get to 500, I'm going to want 1,000,000. In due time, of course, in due time. No one's rushing this. However, that number 10,000 just keeps coming to me in my thoughts throughout the day, and I'm just like, damn, I want 10,000 subscribers. I want to be better at this. And I figure videos like this usually trigger a huge surge of subscribers. The problem is the vast majority of the videos on this channel are lives, so it's a give and take thing, but maybe time to do both. And also being on Player's Choice in the panel made me think like I need to find like 3-4 really engaging personalities who understand what they're talking about with basketball to do like a weekly show or a daily show or something like together, where we can all bounce off, because it's cool to have like one person talking, but I do think it's much, much more engaging to have 5 people having a conversation. Personally, I find that way more entertaining than one person just talking into a mic. It's not being self-deprecating, that's just being honest. So yeah, Sadhu saying 200 more to go. Facts. And it was like 400 more to go like a couple of days ago. So, we'll keep going. Imagine if you uploaded the video tomorrow morning when everyone else is against Jokic. The Schadenfreude would have been amazing. I don't get it. You mean like Nikola Jokic, like my clickbaity title of Nikola Jokic is ruining the NBA, which I went off of very quickly? I don't know. Anyways, definitely go like that video. It's on the channel. It's under videos. It's the last one. Go like it. Go let it run in the background after this video. I will be deeply, deeply appreciative of that. And go Nuggets game 7. But honestly, I'm just looking forward to a competitive game, man. I don't have a dog in this race. My team is Toronto. I'm a Toronto Raptor fan above all else, and I will remain a Toronto Raptor fan. Obviously, I'm pulling for certain players in the playoffs, but I gotta tell you, man, the Celtics have been hard to fucking root for right now. They've been really hard to root for. And personally, I feel like if the Nuggets get knocked out, I'm like kind of in no man's land, because I have no real preference between Minnesota and Dallas winning. Like I would be equally happy for both teams if they won. I would actually be equally happy for the Thunder. In fact, at this point, I may have to just switch up everything and just say, if the Nuggets get knocked out, I'd be pushing for the Thunder. Just at least, you have that kind of Canadian connection, even if I vastly prefer Jason Tatum and Luka Doncic as players. I don't know. It's weird. Gone saying, I like that Asian guy in your lives. It's too bad he's in completely different time zones. Yeah. Share the video to friends. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, if everyone puts it on their Instagram story or, takes the link and posts it on Twitter, I'm sure that we can flip the algorithm, right? Because right now the video is doing poorly because people are not clicking on it. But once people click on it, they are actually watching it. It's a 4-minute and 25-second video. You may not believe this. The average view rate is about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. That means 75%. That's unheard of. So yeah. Oak Tree saying, aren't we pulling for a VC statue? Yeah, man. Yeah. Zigsaw saying, I watched and gave it a like. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, man. And drop a comment. Drop a comment too. Help the algorithm as much as you can. Bless the algorithm. Let me know what you thought of the video. Let me know what you think is going to happen in Game 7. Go over to that video. Share whatever comment you have on this video on that video. I don't know. Videos blow up at random times. Right now, there's a video that I released like 3 months ago on the OKC Thunder just randomly showing up to Chet Holmgren's high school jersey. That's actually like blowing up. Like it's gotten like 100,000 views. And I'm actually weirdly sure that that's actually helping to influence a lot of the subscriber numbers too. So these videos do pop at really random times. The best thing that I would say is that if you're a content creator out there, and maybe this is just advice that I'm giving myself, the best thing you can do is make really good content as often as possible and just don't think about the rest of it. Try to control what you can control. Obviously, make the thumbnails pop, make the titles accurate, meta tag everything, and make sure that you release it at the right time. Timing is everything when it comes to basketball. Had I had that video on ice after his gigantic game, I'm sure it would have popped heavy because everyone would be Googling Nikola Jokic highlights and it would have popped up. But I released it today. And then he has a dud. So I don't know. Gone saying, I don't know how your goat friend does it. Oh, he is like mastered the algorithm. He is incredible. He's really good. Like he's really good. He's really understood the titles and the thumbnails and all of it. Like he's awesome. We've talked about it many times. His video quality is also insane. So yeah. But I do think I do think like this video essay is it's something I'm very proud of. It's something I'm very proud of. Like the narration and the scripting specifically. It reminds me of a video that I watched 16 years ago. It was called The Soul of the Game. And it was very, very interesting. In fact, you guys let me know. Have you watched the video called The San Antonio Spurs, The Beautiful Game? It's like a video that I watched maybe 12, 13, 14 years ago. There was also a video I watched once. It was a mix by Expired Pineapples called Kobe Bryant, The Man on Fire. It was right after his rape allegations. And, and it was it was incredible. It was an incredible mix. So some of these mixes just stay with me. Some of these videos have stayed with me for 20 years, right? Kawhi Leonard, The Great Escape by NBA Storyteller. I mean, holy shit. Yeah. You mean Goateology? Yes, of course I do. Yes. Your goat is a Pistons fan. Yes. Talk about Knicks. Your video is gonna pop. I don't believe in doing that. Like I don't believe in at any cost. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna talk about what I want to talk about. And if I don't talk about what I'm going to talk about, what I want to talk about, obviously I'll give Jalen Brunson his props. Like I'm very, very much looking forward to hopefully a Knicks Knicks. Well, I was going to say Knicks Pistons, Knicks Pacers, potentially Game 7. That should be very entertaining. Although I am secretly really hoping. There's no team that I'm actually against in the playoffs other than Indiana right now, frankly. And even with Indiana, there's parts of me that's like, could I be really, really happy for Tyrese Halliburton and Andrew Nemhard and Jarris Walker? And I'm not a Ben Mathurin fan, number one, and I'm not really a huge Siakam fan. So I don't know. Rob, I'm still not sold on Brunson. He is not facing actual contenders yet. That's fair. But he's going to face up against the. I mean, let's not pretend like he didn't just do this shit all year, right? I mean, Jalen Brunson was awesome all year. It's not like he just did it against the Pistons. Anyways, do you think the Raptors will have to rename the OVO Center? Why? Did something happen with Drake that I'm not aware of? I don't keep up with Drake news. This might come as a bit of a shock to people, but I'm not really a huge fan. Is this the security guard getting shot outside Drake's mansion? Is that like... Drake's been getting cooked by Kendrick Lamar? That whole thing? I am a big Kendrick Lamar fan, though. That I will tell you, I am not a Drake fan. Even though I could definitely get with headlines, and like he's had a couple of really banging songs. I can't quite get my head around Drake the person, Drake the personality. I've never really understood why people like him. Personally, it drives me kind of crazy that people do, but people like a lot of things that I don't like. His music is one of them. I think his music is great. I think it's everything else that just, it's so corny and so irritating to me. But Kendrick Lamar, like, to me, feels very smooth, very authentic. I do like Canadian artists, though. I'll give you that. I do like Canadian artists. And one of the Canadian artists, I was thinking, I want to give a shout out to this guy, but I don't know if the video will get demonetized if I give him a shout out, because I wanted to play their song, play a little bit of it, because I feel like it's super underrated and it came out like 15 years ago. But yeah, I don't know. I'll think about it. I don't know. Like maybe I'll try to upload it one day and see if it hits a copyright strike or something. I'm trying to be really careful with the channel, because if y'all don't remember, I accidentally aired a hockey game the other day. Don't play it, just recommend it. Okay. Okay, definitely go check out this song. It's called On the TTC. Hold on. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up on my phone and just play a like really shitty kind of recording of it, and just like give you all like a taste of like 10 seconds of it. One sec. I know these guys don't make music anymore. It was a joke, one off, right? But the song is jokes. Hold on.
See the bus get your woman, it just makes me vex. A 25-minute wait until the bus comes next. I don't think these TTC dudes know about stress. They make me chase down the bus until I'm out of breath. I paid the fare for my game, but that don't mean shit. I see that man with the cane, but I won't let him sit.
It's a great song. It's hilarious. Like it makes me laugh every time. I don't know. Like, it's nothing's changed. I mean, some shit's changed. Gas price has gone up, but it was funny. There's a lot of like stuff like that. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent in Toronto, right? And I mean, I'm not talking about these guys necessarily. It was funny as shit, but like, I'm talking like guys like Lean. Like, I grew up with a lot of people who were serious heavies. Like, when it comes to like talent, I'm talking pure talent. But then, you see the people who made it big, and I'm like, yo, honestly, if I saw those guys in a basement like 20 years ago, they weren't the most talented person in that basement. So I don't really understand how this talent thing works. I'm assuming it means connections and kissing ass and being presentable and being marketable and, greasing palms and all that stuff. But, it's interesting, like, being inside the music scene at all and just kind of understanding how that machine even works. But certainly I have met way more talented people in my life musically than Drake. He's a genius, though, when it comes to everything else. And frankly, I think a lot of this shit comes down to just staying alive. staying alive, right? Staying alive, staying disciplined, staying focused, and maybe that's a part of the success equation that Drake figured out, right? Just just not fucking yourself up. How many people got a record deal or made the wrong decisions or ended up going to jail? I mean, some of the most talented rappers I knew growing up are in jail or were in jail last I checked. So you got to be free to do this shit. So I don't know, but like in terms of dudes from Canada that I really do like, I like The Weeknd. So I'm not hating. I'm not hating unequivocally. I do like The Weeknd. I do fuck with The Weeknd. Like it's great music. I like his music a lot. Anyways, all right. I think I'm done. Yeah, I'm done. All right. 1:49 a.m. Rest in peace, Darren Dutchyshen. His TSN is going to be different, but yeah. All right. Talk to y'all later.